Hello, I'm going to do a kind of update slash reading vlog for The Dark Prophecy. I think I'm just about to reach halfway, if not halfway through this. So last night I was up late reading this and it really gripped me. And now these books in particular, and probably the whole Ridenverse, but like, all right, the thing is with me, I'm sorry, by the way, if anybody is actually watching these videos. I know that I basically have no structure. I also don't have a script. I literally just go off and say what I want to say because I feel like if I had a script or something, it would just not be natural. I just have ideas and a mouth. Basically, like, I've lost it now. The thing with these, okay, so with me, right, is I tend to categorize pieces of media into two different like departments or categories of why I really like them. Sometimes I really like them just because I really like the characters and I really like the fandom and I really like the community around a piece of media. So in that sense, it's like I'm more into the fandom rather than objectively liking a piece of media because I think it's really, really, really good. But these, I think, have tipped the Ridenverse for me now from one of my favorites in terms of just I'm really into the fandom and I'm really like enjoying it and I really enjoy the characters into these are actually now this series, like Trials of Apollo, is now entered one of my favorite book series of all time, as in speaks to me on an emotional level and is going to have a profound emotional impact on me, and I'm going to be thinking about it like for the rest of my life. That's not an exaggeration. And honestly, like, I need to look up if these are truly marketed as middle grade books because I mentioned this in Hidden Oracle as well, but this is dark. Um, so there is going to be spoilers in this, so if you don't want to be spoiled, like, look away now. I made like a couple of small references last time and I said spoilers, but this is like proper spoiler. So I mentioned how these are quite angsty because of like Apollo's trauma and how the thing is with Apollo, he really, I find him like ridiculously relatable because he has this kind of outer bluster of like, oh, I'm so amazing, oh, I'm so fantastic, oh, everybody loves me. But he's only saying that and he says it and he says it because he doesn't truly feel that way. And that was already kind of established last book when he sang that song and he saved Meg from the ants about how he has let everybody down and he is a failure and he's lost so many people in his life, and he mentioned this again in this book. And the whole thing with Commodus is actually made me cry. The flashback sequence where Apollo had to murder him and was crying while he did it because he couldn't get out of his head that he was murdering like his former best friend and lover, and he had to kill him, but he killed him for the good of Rome and for the good of the people, and he like hates himself, but he still does the things that he does, however atrocious that they are, for a greater good and for, because he can't stand to see the monster that he has become. And that there was this one particular line where he was like, I killed him because I could not stand to see my beautiful Commodus killed by someone else, because he knows that with his behavior he is bound to be assassinated sooner or later. I got goosebumps all along my hands, all along my arms, like up to here when I was reading it yesterday. It made me cry. And he's got like trauma now, so he literally cannot. He's scared of water because every time he sees water, it reminds him of Commodus because he drowned him in a bathtub. And also, I don't know, I need to look up, like, historically, like, if there's any, like, truth to this, if Commodus was actually drowned in a bathtub. But there's a lot of symbolism there because obviously it's like Commodus at his most vulnerable, and I think there's a lot of kind of parallels to Clytemnestra's murder of Agamemnon, but obviously Clytemnestra's murder of Agamemnon was done out of hatred, but still there's that kind of line of hubris from the person who's being murdered, and it's just exquisite, like honestly exquisite. Like, Rick Riordan has like upgraded like the themes that he was kind of touching upon in his first two series about godhood, about mortality, about morality, about life, about so many other things that he's been touching upon, that I kind of was saying, and I was thinking to myself, I wish these weren't middle grade books. I wish these were at least YA, so that this could be properly fleshed out and properly explored. And if that were the case, these would be one of the best book series of all time. He has done that in this book. Like, this is YA, in my opinion. Well, not at least. The only thing that makes this like middle grade is the fact that the language is very simplistic, and the fact that there are jokes everywhere. But the jokes, like I said in the previous video about Hidden Oracle, they're not childish. They're mostly references to Greek mythology or pop culture. So they're not like, they are child friendly jokes, but they're not aimed at children, in my opinion. Like, this feels like a YA book to me, at least in terms of tone. So, not at least, it is like, it's not, it is still very light in tone most of the time. So I guess that's why it's marketed as middle grade, but these are very heavy topics. Um, so I think that this is more akin to like YA, because to be fair, YA deals with a lot of heavy topics. This is honestly like, this whole thing, and with Apollo's trauma with water, this is this is giving me like, I haven't felt like such sympathy for like a book character's like trauma since Six of Crows. Like, this is probably like on par to Six of Crows for me, honestly. And the same found family trope with Apollo, and I know it's his children, but he's kind of, he never really acknowledged them as his children before, and they're becoming his family. And I also like, one thing I do like a little bit less about this one is the fact that they are kind of like, it is kind of falling into that pitfall. Not as much as Heroes of Olympus, but I'd say probably as much as Percy Jackson did. Of, they're on a quest and they keep encountering little bumps. But do you know what? It's okay. It's charming in this. It's done well, and it does flow well. In Heroes of Olympus, it was very like that's how it felt like to me sometimes. But in here, it's done well. It's just that I felt like Hidden Oracle might have flowed a little bit better. And the other thing I liked about Hidden Oracle was the fact that we were in Camp Half Blood for the vast majority of the book. Also Will and Nico, I love seeing Will and Nico. They're not in this one so far, but we do get Leo and Calypso in this one. Wait, actually, maybe they were, no, Leo and Calypso. Sorry, they came in at the very end of the last one, and that was like my favorite scene of the whole book. Oh, honestly, it was so funny. Like, the humor is so good because it's based on like the characters. It almost feels a bit like fan service, but like in a good way. I feel like what Rick must have done is, I think he got like involved in like the fandom, and he saw like what fans' interpretations of the characters were and what they thought of them, and he kind of took that on board and made them like more canon. Whereas I feel like maybe a character didn't necessarily behave that way 100% of the time before that. He kind of incorporated fanon interpretations of characters in their canon. Like, that's how it feels to me reading it. Um, and like, there's a scene where like Leo comes back, and everybody like Camp Half Blood like lines up to smack him in the face because he just disappeared, and everybody assumed he was dead, and they didn't hear from him for like 6 months. I feel like that's something that you'd read in like a Tumblr post, isn't it? It's like, I can't wait for when Leo comes back and everybody slaps the shit out of him. Honestly, like, but then he went and did it. So it feels like fan service, but like in the best way possible. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling so far about these books. They really mean the world to me, honestly. This entire universe has meant very much to me, but these books are hitting on another level. And like I said, I'm flying through them. I started this about a week ago. To be fair, I haven't made that much progress, so like half a book in like a week. I could have been going faster, but I've been really busy. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to go well. Okay, so just a really quick update about Dark Prophecy. Just because, like, I am enjoying it, and like I said, like, it's really good. But some of these lines are a little bit questionable. I would say that this is definitely like the most like mature. I've said this before. It's definitely like the most mature book series. And some of the jokes in here kind of like, I don't know. It feels like it's kind of pushing like what would be acceptable in like a kid's book. I've taught not just in terms of like violence, but in terms of like, I'm sorry if I'm just like reading too much into this, but by the way, this is all spoilery. Well, I mean, all you're gonna find out is that spoilers from here, that Talia is going to meet Lester/Apollo. So she says, I'll go with Apollo. Talia Grace climbed up behind me on the elephant, which fulfilled a daydream I'd once had about the pretty hunter, though I hadn't imagined it happening quite this way. The fuck? What? Would you clarify what you mean by this statement, Apollo? Mm-hmm. Also, like, I know that a few years have passed now, but isn't Talia, like, permanently 15? And he says he's had it for a while. Okay, we all know that it's messed up. Like, we all know that gods aren't good people, right? I don't know why I'm surprised. There was another one where Commodus was talking to Apollo, and he says something. Wait, I'll find it. Um, this is what Commodus is saying to Apollo while he has him captured. I did warn her, play my games or else, but elephants are so stubborn because he's got this like pet elephant that he's trapped. They're big and strong and used to getting their way, rather like gods. Still, he winked at me. It's amazing what a little punishment can accomplish. I didn't deliver that very well. Let's do it again. Still, he winked at me. It's amazing what a little punishment can accomplish. What? Is it just me? Is it just me? Do I have a problem? Okay, so I'm currently just reading some of the Dark Prophecy, and I'm gonna make a prediction. It might be like way off, but I feel like something's like happening, and I feel like he's the only character that doesn't really have a reason to be there, and the fact that he's there is kind of being covered up with like comedy. It might be way off, like I said, but basically, also sorry for spoilers. This whole thing is gonna have spoilers. Um, this guy Jamie, so I'm in the bit where they've just like rescued a load of people from Commodus's like lair, including Jamie, who Apollo refers to as tall, dark, and handsome because he has a crush on him. And I'm just at this bit now where like Apollo is kind of can't sleep because he knows he has to go on a quest with Meg the next day to the cave of Trophonius. I think that's how you say it. Trophonius? I'm not sure. Um, and Jamie has just kind of startled him and is gonna like talk to him, and I guess they're gonna have like a moment together. I don't know if he's gonna be like a love interest, but I'm getting like weird vibes from Jamie. Like he keeps saying like ominous things. He also like I don't want this to come across as like racist, by the way. I'm sorry if it does that, but he also like he speaks a different language, which I'm not sure what it is. I will look into it um as well, and he says like ominous things, like I said, like the day before. He said, "Oh, like I don't really like this language of them and us." Because how can we really be sure that we are all friends here or something along those lines? I'm not sure if it's gonna turn out that he's like evil, but I feel like something is gonna happen with him. He's either gonna betray them or it's gonna there's gonna be a plot twist and we find out that he's somebody either somebody he's this is the disguise of somebody else, or that this is somebody that we've been looking for, similar to how Meg was revealed to be Nero's stepdaughter. I'm not sure if it's going to turn out that he's going to be evil. I think he's more likely to be like morally grey. That noise is my washing machine. If you can hear that. Um, I'm getting similar vibes to when, oh my god, I've forgotten the name he went by, but when the training swordsman from Camp Half Blood in Battle of the Labyrinth turned out to be Daedalus. I'm getting similar vibes to that. So that's going to be my prediction. And because I feel like this whole thing about how Apollo has a crush on him, and every time he's there, like he makes jokes about him, it's kind of to set up for a bit of a like an emotional like sense of betrayal, and also to kind of throw dust in the reader's eyes because every time he comes on screen if you will. Every time he appears on the page, he's kind of being obscured by Apollo's crush on him. So you don't really think too hard about why he's there, because he's literally like the only one out of all the like people that they rescued that we don't really know like anything about. And there was a bit of an ominous kind of note when they first freed him. The Dracana, I think that's her name. It can't be her. She can't be like evil because it's too obvious, and like she's like too obviously comic relief because she's like in the background like eating eggs like repeatedly, and she's like, oh yeah, my name is Sarah with five S's, Sarah. Like it's just too on the nose, whereas this is feel like it's meant to like obscure something. Anyway, the Sarah with five S's said something along the lines of, "Oh, you can't free him, like he's too dangerous." So I think we're leading up to something. Either he's going to turn out to be the third emperor, or something along those lines, or working for Nero, or well, obviously he was previously, I think, associated with Commodus, but he was imprisoned. Something's gonna happen. Okay, so I am further in, further along, with the Dark Prophecy. I've also got, by the way, I could show them off later, but I got these really cute like magnetic clip-ons, mushroom themed from foils, and I'm using them to mark places where um there are quotes that I like or that I find interesting or that I want to mention. Um, so basically, just a little bit more Apollo angst. Because as well as having a lot of dead lovers, by the way, this is spoilery. Like, I'm sorry. I'm gonna look into this because I'm not sure if this is actually true. Because as a Greek mythology enthusiast, I had not heard of this before, but apparently there was an oracle, which is the Dark Oracle, which is what the Dark Prophecy refers to, which basically was inhabited by the spirit of his dead son, who was called Trophonius. And the backstory here is that basically Trophonius and his brother, who wasn't Apollo's son, so his half brother, who was mortal, were robbing this king's treasury, and his brother Agamathus was crushed, was caught and was being crushed by these rocks. And he asked his brother Trophonius to kill him by cutting off his head and taking it with him, so that when they found his body, they wouldn't be able to tell who it was and would therefore not associate the brother with the crime. And this is Trophonius' spirit confronting Apollo about the fact that he did nothing to help him in that situation when he was being prayed to. So Trophonius's laughter was a horrible sound, worthy of a spirit who dwelled in the darkness with thousands of poisonous snakes. Take me instead, he repeated, because that's what Apollo has just told him, referring to Meg, who's his basically like best friend. The very prayer I made when my brother Agamethus was caught in a tunnel, his chest crushed, his life fading. Did you listen to me then, father? My mouth turned dry. Don't punish the girl for what I did. Trophonius's ghostly bees swarmed in a wider cloud, buzzing angrily past my face. Do you know how long I wandered the mortal world after killing my brother, Apollo? Asked the ghost. After cutting off his head, my hand still covered in his blood, I staggered through the wilderness for weeks, months. I pleaded to the earth to swallow me up and end my misery. I got half my wish. He gestured around him. I dwell in darkness now because I am your son. I see the future because I am your son. All my pain and madness. Why should I not share it with those who seek my help? Does your help ever come without a price? And it's just like, damn, like these books are going places, you know what I mean? Like these lines, this is not something like it's hitting me in some places. It's making me feel some things. I just felt the need to share that extract, that little snippet of the book. I'm sorry, I know it's spoilery, but I just feel like I need to like express these thoughts. So I just yeah. That's all I've got to say. I just wanted to read out that snippet and just like declare to you how much angst there is in these books and how much I love it. Okay, I'm back like 2 seconds later because literally on the other page, something that I feel is quite monumental has happened, like pretty big thing in terms of character development. Again, spoilers. To be fair, like we have so far seen that Apollo is more than the facade that he portrays, that he has a lot of humanity, if you will, within him, anyways. But to be honest, so far, all that's really happened is that he's just allowed himself to show those vulnerabilities because he's no longer invulnerable. It's very heavily implied that he's always felt like this. He's always felt an inferiority complex due to being Zeus's son. He's always felt the need to kind of cover up his insecurities with just a lot of bluster and a lot of like flashing lights and a lot of false confidence, even as a god. So far, like nothing has really changed about his personality. It's just that it's more obvious because he's mortal now. But I feel like this is the epiphany of character progression because it's now that he starts to kind of grasp the meaning of life and the meaning of mortality and how it can be more than what immortality can be. She is precious to you, says the oracle. Would you give your life in exchange for hers? I had trouble processing that question. Give up my life? At any point in my 4,000 years of existence, my answer would have been an emphatic no. Are you crazy? One should never give up one's life. One's life is important. The whole point of my quest in the mortal world, finding and securing all these ancient oracles, was to regain immortality so I wouldn't have to ponder such awful questions. And yet, I thought of Emmy and Josephine renouncing immortality for each other. I thought of Calypso giving up her home, her powers, and eternal life for a chance to roam the world, experience love, and possibly enjoy the wonders of high school in Indiana. Yes, I found myself saying. Yes, I would die to save Meg McCaffrey. And I just feel like that's a monumental moment in the series. I really don't get people who don't like Apollo. Apparently, I've heard that the reason that this is like less popular than the other two is because people are really used to selfless heroes, and this comes across as like such an asshole. But he's obviously not an asshole. Like, it's obvious that he just has a lot of insecurities. It's obvious that he's a coward at heart and is afraid to put himself forward. Yes, he's selfish, but he's so real and relatable. Are you telling me that the average Percy Jackson fan would just immediately volunteer to die to save the world? You wouldn't, would you? So I really don't understand why he's disliked. Like, Apollo is like he was always my favorite character, even in the beginning of in the first books. I thought he was hilarious in Camp Half Blood Chronicles. No, Camp Half Blood Confidential. Sorry, I got that mixed up. Um, yeah, I adore him. He's my small cinnamon roll. Not even just in here. I think that this portrayal is so accurate to his mythological like status. Every time I go see him go see him. Every time I go to like a museum and I see an statue of Apollo, I literally think to myself, "Oh my god, my poor little baby." He's the epitome of bisexual disaster, and I love it so much. Hello and welcome to a final update slash review and final thoughts on the Dark Prophecy, which I just finished today. Um, yeah, I didn't fly through this quite as quickly as I flew through the Hidden Oracle. Not because I was enjoying it less. I think I was just a bit busier with this one. I did bookmark a couple of places that I had thoughts on, but I didn't talk about them because I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to finish this book anyways, so I might as well just talk about it all at the end. I kind of wish that I had talked about them back when, well, it was earlier today, but it's like nearly midnight at the moment and I'm really tired. um, I'm basically just taking a break from some work that I'm doing. I thought maybe let's film this as like a break for my brain. Um, basically, this is going to have spoilers. I mean, the rest of the video has had spoilers as well, but I can't talk about this without having spoilers, so sorry. The first thing, which is a little bit random to be honest, but I just thought it was really funny, was just how I'm not gonna have spoilers in this bit, so this is just like basically a character gets rehabilitated. I'm not going to tell you who used to be a villain, and he and Leo are talking to each other, and it says the two bumped fists as if they hadn't spent the last few days talking about how much they wanted to kill each other. They would have made fine Olympian gods. And okay, now that I'm reading it now, it doesn't seem that funny. But when I read it earlier today, I thought it was hilarious, and I thought that it was just such a profound understanding of what Greek mythology is about at its core, because at its core, it's just about a dysfunctional family, to be honest. And I think that that is really. I've talked about this before, how I think that Rick Riordan really understands Greek mythology in a way that a lot of modern adaptations really don't. You get all these Hollywood adaptations that are all really dramatic, and they all have Hades as like the main villain, and it's really not like that at all. So yeah, I appreciate that. Um, there was. I'm just going to talk about this more generally. Like I've talked generally about how these books are darker than the other Ridenverse books, definitely. Um, and it was almost more apparent in this book as well because of the death scenes that happen in the battle. The way that death is described in this book is much more graphic, it's much more real. There still is a bit of the kind of monsters exploding into dust. I'm gonna say I don't understand why the Germani, which are like the my god, the I forget the name of the tribe, Visigoths, which are basically this Germanic tribe that was employed by the Romans. I remember learning about them when I was in school when I was younger. Um, yeah, I remember um sorry, I just had a bit of a they kind of disappear into gold dust when they die, which doesn't really make sense because they're not really monsters, they're just like humans. But anyway, some characters do still eviscerate into gold dust the way that other things have conveniently died without blood and gore for the rest of the series, but some people's deaths are described very vividly. I didn't bookmark it, but there were three things that hit me. It's when Lester slash Apollo is coming back from the Dark Oracle, and he is basically rushing to see what's been going on in the battle since he's been gone that morning. I mean, he's only been gone for 4 hours, but a lot has gone down. And he sees this unnamed demigod, and I found it a really like sweet moment. It was this demigod, and he himself says he doesn't know if he was on their side or if he was on the other side, but he kind of kneels down and just like pays tribute to him and says that regardless, like it was such a waste, and it vividly describes how he's gone pale and how he's like twisted at an unnatural angle, and it just felt very vivid in a way that other deaths haven't been. I can't really remember how Selena's death was described, but if you think of other major characters' deaths in Percy Jackson, we've got Beckendorf's death, which was basically off screen, you know what I mean, since he died in an explosion, and also Bianca's death, very similarly. She died when she was within Talus, and Talus crumbled, so didn't get to actually see her death. They were very PG deaths, but this felt very real. Also, when he finds the body of Heloise, which is one of the griffins. And another thing which I have mixed feelings about, he finds Festus and he thinks that he's dead, and it's described very dramatically about how his eyes are like muted and dead and have no light. But then Leo later reveals that, oh, don't worry, like I can revive him, no problem. I have mixed feelings about this. I don't know, honestly. Like, because I thought I really liked the way that Apollo like described thinking that Festus was dead, but also I think I would have been a bit pissed off if he had actually died because he's been killed and brought back before. He was brought back by Piper through the power of her charm speak in Heroes of Olympus. So it would have been a little bit silly if he just died literally like a few months later in the timeline for no reason in a minor battle. So I kind of see why he just wasn't dead, but I don't know. I don't know. It just threw me off a little bit. I wasn't sure. The one thing I will say, firstly, let me read this passage, which is about oh my god, I forgot his name. Heloise is one of the griffins, and that they have in well, one of the characters in the book. Basically, these griffins that fight on the side of the good guys. and she has this mate. I've forgotten his name. I'm so sorry. But this is how it's described. Like his mourning is described. After death, griffins become surprisingly light. Their bodies desiccate when their spirits pass on, leaving only fur, feathers, and hollow bones. We stepped back as Abelard prowled toward the body of his mate. He ruffled his wings, then gently buried his beak in Heloise's neck plumage one last time. He threw back his head and let out a piercing cry, a call that said, "I'm here, where are you?" Then he launched himself into the sky and disappeared into the low grey clouds. Heloise's body crumpled to dust. It might not sound very dramatic now that I'm reading it, but it made me cry when I first read it. Now, my main complaint with this book is honestly I was a little bit disappointed with the kind of final confrontation between Commodus and Apollo. I did find what happened satisfying. I'm not going to describe it the way that Apollo defeats him. I did find that satisfying. However, with all of the build up and all of the flashbacks and kind of being in Apollo's head and the descriptions of how much he loved him in the past, I really wanted it's kind of touched upon because when they kind of encounter each other in the beginning, like they encounter each other earlier in the book as well, but then Apollo escapes. I didn't really mind there not being much confrontation then. But when I say confrontation, I mean like on a personal level where we get to dig deep and acknowledge their pasts, right? That what didn't happen, and I didn't mind because I knew that another confrontation was coming. But the final confrontation, there is a little bit of a hint because Commodus kind of throws back everything that he's told Apollo before, like you betrayed me, you did this, you did that, and it says something like, below the bluster, I could hear the fraying edge of pain and betrayal in his voice. But I was really hoping that there was going to be more. I was really hoping that there was going to be a moment where their feelings would be bared. I was really hoping that Apollo would get to tell him how much he loved him and that he had to do the things that he did he regrets. I really wanted to see an apology. I didn't want a reconciliation. I definitely know that Commodus is well beyond that, but what I really wanted was a moment where Apollo is being really sincere and tells him I'm so sorry to see what you've become, and there's a moment where Commodus contemplates those words. You can tell that those words have affected him, but then he brushes it off and gets back down to business. That's kind of what I was expecting, and when I thought this was going, because of all of that backstory and all of that build up that we would have had. If that book had that, it would have been perfect. I'm still rating it 5 stars on Goodreads because I have rated books that are far worse than this as 5 stars within the Heroes of Olympus series, and it still wrapped up really nicely. There was a really nice feeling of community and character development from Apollo at the end, and it led very nicely into the continuation of the story, which I won't give away. But yeah, that's just what would have elevated it for me into absolute perfection. That was a little bit of a letdown for me because it was something that I had been looking forward to. Oh my god, I can't wait for them to encounter and acknowledge all of these feelings. Unless they see each other again, which I mean, I just spoiled that he's not dead, haven't I? Well, we don't know that he's not dead. His fate has been allowed to be ambiguous. Commodus's fate has been left open-ended unless they encounter each other again. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. But that's the only thing, my only complaint really. Otherwise, I really enjoyed this. Like I've said, absolutely loving this series. Cannot wait to get started with The Burning Maze. Hi, this is a little bit random kind of interjection from future me. I have finished The Dark Prophecy for a while now. I am on The Burning Maze. I literally forget what the names of these books are because to be fair, it's not very prominent on the covers. You've got the Trials of Apollo, you've got Big Rick Riordan, but then The Dark Prophecy is quite a small kind of almost like a sub you know what I mean, like a subtitle. I just final point that I forgot to mention, which was something that I was intending to mention. By the way, it's a different setup today. lighting is a bit weird as well. It looks very red. I don't know why. It's just because it's a bit dark in here, I think. But I am home for the weekend, so I've come home from uni. Um, so yeah, just the final thing I wanted to talk about with Jamie, because I was off the mark with him, unless he comes back, but I don't think he's going to. Just a little bit of a mention. I did think it was interesting how he was said to be basically a demigod from a different pantheon. I forget now. I think it's, is it Nigeria that he mentioned? I'm so sorry if it isn't and I've gotten it wrong. I can't remember what country he mentioned that like he's a demigod of. And the kind of name of the tribe and the people and the religion I don't remember. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to kind of like give a brief mention to this. I thought that was really cool, and I do like how Rick Riordan kind of mentions like other pantheons as well. I mean, obviously he's got a really big interest in mythology, otherwise he wouldn't have written these books that are about Greek mythology and books about Egyptian mythology and books about Norse mythology. But I remember he also mentions Mayan mythology at some point. And I do like how Apollo talks about how the different manifestations of reality kind of keep the world going forwards. And even though he is the sun god, there are also other sun gods like Ra. I think that it's a really interesting take. And I also like how contradictory it is, because on the one hand you've got kind of the timeline of like the strict timeline, if we consider that everything in mythology is strictly true, as in chaos happened and then this happened, and according to that timeline, Calypso, for example, is much older than Apollo, because she is a daughter of the original Titans before the Olympian gods were born and took over the Titan, took over the throne of the world, if you will. But then you also have things like how Britomartis is mentioned as being older than Apollo and the other Olympian gods, because she's a Cretan goddess, and the Cretan civilization, my God, I've forgotten, the Minoan civilization is older than the kind of classical Greek civilization from which like the pantheon of the Olympian gods came from. That is more of a real world interpretation and more of a acknowledging the fact that mythology isn't actually real, as in these things didn't strictly happen, but they kind of come into existence due to humans believing in them, and the collective consciousness and manifestation of humanity. And I like that you have these two like interpretations of reality and existence, and they are kind of simultaneously and constantly acknowledged as being true at the same time. I think that's a really interesting way of doing things, and I actually quite like it. Some people will say it's contradictory, but I think that that's the point. The point is that you can have kind of contradictory ideas and contradictory realities present at the same time, and that doesn't mean that one is less real or less valid than the other. I think it's a really interesting way of looking at it, and I just wanted to say that I'm really impressed with the way that Rick has kind of skillfully like incorporated it, and it works really well because it's from Apollo's perspective. He is a deity. He has experienced being able to split his consciousness into pieces, so it makes sense that that kind of interpretation of reality comes across the most intuitively when it is being told from his perspective. Um, yeah, and I just wanted to say that I do really respect Rick Riordan, and I respect what he has done in terms of because he's basically said that he doesn't intend to write any more fantasy series in other mythologies, because he thinks that it should be he wants to let kind of other authors shine, particularly authors that come from those cultures. And I know he set up his company slash foundation, Rick Riordan Presents, where he kind of sponsors up and coming new authors. And even though I really respect that, there is a part of me that just wishes that he would keep writing, because I really like his writing, and I really like seeing characters interact, and I like seeing little Easter eggs from one series referencing another in his books. Um, to be fair though, he has not stopped writing. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that every single year since he started publishing, I have a dog in the background, by the way, in case you hear anything. Every single year since he started writing Percy Jackson, he's published a book. So I think he kind of maybe saying some things to like throw like I was about to say something there that doesn't make any sense. To kind of distract us and so that we're not anticipating things. Like, I'm pretty sure that he never mentioned the fact that he was working on the Sun and the Star sequel. He might have even denied it as well, and yet we know now that that's up and coming. So fingers crossed, because I would really like it if he would write books about Mayan mythology or African mythology. Like, I would read anything that he wrote, honestly, and I think that that kind of like interactions of the different pantheons and mythologies is very, very interesting. So I would love to read more of that. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think I've changed my mind. I don't think Jamie is anything. I don't think he's evil or is going to betray them. Although there was one point where it mentioned about his lightning being dark, and I thought, is this foreshadowing? But I don't think so, because I think that it was just a reference to the fact that he's not of like the Greek pantheon. And to maybe like a casual Ryan-verse reader who maybe has only read the Camp Half-Blood series and hasn't read Kane Chronicles or doesn't know that Magnus Chase is a thing, maybe that would be kind of more of a interesting reveal. And it was kind of foreshadowing towards that, but I think to someone who knows like more about what Rick Riordan writes, it's not that surprising. Okay, that's it. I am going to start editing this video now because I know that it has been a very long time since I uploaded anything. Oh well, a long time. It's been like a week, but for the first few days I was on it. I was uploading every single day because I had videos kind of lined up. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I hadn't bothered like editing this video because I had it in my mind that I wanted to film this final clip because I forgot to mention it. There might be other things that I've forgotten, but honestly, I kind of want to start editing this now and get it out there. So even if I do remember anything, I won't. I don't think I'm going to be adding to this video. So sorry if I missed out anything, any thoughts that you wanted to hear my thoughts on. Tune in next time on Only One Read.